Welcome back, hockey fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, and we as the hockey community were just treated to an unbelievable Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm going to break it all down for you here. What a monumental game, and the Edmonton Oilers eventually came up short. After falling down in what seemed to be an insurmountable 3-0 series deficit, found a way to win in Game 4 and 5 and 6, forcing the winner-take-all Game 7 in Florida, and ultimately fell short. Congratulations to the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers and their whole organization. Bill Zito, head coach Paul Maurice, Matthew Tkachuk, Barkov, the rest of the guys, Bobrovsky. Job well done. I mean, wow. I can't imagine being a Panthers fan going into that game after leading the series 3-0 and then blowing it to come back at home in the Game 7. They must have felt all the pressure in the world, and they did it for their home crowd. What an unbelievable game. We'll get to everything momentarily, but wow, I'm still in shock. I just finished watching all the post-game coverage and the on-ice celebrations, and it got me all emotional thinking about my old-school New Jersey Devils squad. It's been so long since we've been a Cup champion, and enjoy it, Panthers fans, because you'll look back on these nights you'll never forget. Truly remarkable stuff. We start off before the game with none other than Alanis Morissette coming onto the ice to sing both the Canadian and American national anthems. She is a dual citizen. I didn't realize that. And she looks pretty good for her age. Let me tell you guys. I mean, listen, she's showing her age a little bit, and she's aging. But, still looks pretty good. What's up, Alanis? Hit me up. Call me. But for those of you younger people that aren't familiar with her, she had one of the biggest albums, in my opinion, of the 90s, entitled Jagged Little Pill. Check it out. In my opinion, it's an absolute classic. Great album from Alanis Morissette. Coincidentally, this little side tidbit on her, one of the hit songs on that album was called You Oughta Know, basically about a woman scorned and a former lover. Very popular song of the 90s, and for years, she was very tight-lipped and would not reveal who the song was about. And once upon a time, there was a rumor that it was about former New Jersey Devil Mike Peluso, believe it or not. And for years and years, this kind of urban legend grew and grew. Also a rumor that it was about Dave Coulier, a.k.a. Uncle Joey of Full House fame. And in subsequent years and interviews and things, it's now all but been confirmed that the song was not about former New Jersey Devil Mike Peluso, and it was, in fact, about Uncle Joey, Dave Coulier. Interesting tidbit. Check out that album. It's an absolute classic. Alanis kills it. She does both anthems. It seemed like the crowd thought they were going to be a co-feature and take over the reins like they were doing in Edmonton, but Alanis was like, I need this FaceTime. I'm not out here too often. I don't remember the last time I really heard her name in mainstream, and she was like, I'm not going to, lose my opportunity to sing these anthems and let the crowd sing. And she was like, screw you guys. You could sing with me. Great job by Alanis Morissette. And we get to the game, and in the first couple shifts, I had multiple text message threads that were all kind of repeating the same thing, and everyone was like, oh, my God, how good was Mike Doc Emrick, and how good did we have it as hockey fans, and even more specifically, New Jersey Devils fans? Mike Doc Emrick is the absolute GOAT of broadcasting, play-by-play, in my opinion. I don't think there's anyone who's ever been remotely on the level of Doc. We were blessed to have him as our Devils guy for years and years, alongside Chico Resch, my favorite TV tandem of all time for the New Jersey Devils. And then once Doc left the Devils, everyone in the hockey community got to enjoy him on the national stage when he did playoffs and Olympics and all those things. But Mike Doc Emrick putting the current guys to shame, and not to slander them, McDonough or whatever, but there's just no comparison. Mike Doc Emrick was the next level. He's sorely missed. In games like tonight, you really, if you're an older fan, you really miss the Doc thumbprint on a game. He really was something else. It's games like this is when he shined the brightest. We will get to the game, and the Panthers got on the board and got their crowd into it early. At 4:27, Carter Verhaeghe on a beautiful little tip redirect in front. 1-0 Panthers. The building goes wild. And at that point, I said, okay, Oilers got to settle down. And if they don't get the next one, they're done, in my opinion. I thought if the Panthers took a 2-0 lead, it'd be a wrap. Complete wrap. And the Oilers answered. A little over 2 minutes later at 6:44, Janmark gets sprung on the breakaway. Cash money. Puts it right past Bobrovsky on the stick side, and apparently that's been the scouting report on Bobrovsky. Weak on the stick side. Janmark comes in, and he lights that ass up. I think they said it was the 5th or 6th consecutive breakaway that Bobrovsky was scored on. I mean, wow. That's quite a stat. 1-1 After one, we head to the second, and we had some good chances back and forth. Overall, this was an exciting game. I mean, wow. Game 7, back and forth. Love to see it. As a Panthers fan, I'm sure you wanted a little more of a cushion. The last time your boy Ace was at a Stanley Cup Final, Game 7, was in 2003 when my Devils played the Ducks, and we had a big lead, and it was kind of a party for the whole third period. It was somewhat anticlimactic, but if you're the home team fan, you don't really want to be on the edge of your seat, I don't think. You'd rather just have the comfortable lead and know you're going to win that cup. That was not the case here. This was on a nail-biter on the edge of your seat till the very end. And in the second period at 15-11, Reinhart gets one that Skinner definitely wants back. It was kind of a shoddy goal. He was coming down. There was a little traffic in front. He just throws it on net, and it squeaks in. And that's it. That's all she wrote. That is your game winner. At 15-11 of the second period, and exciting third period for sure. Exciting third period. I definitely think the Oilers were taking it to him. Connor McDavid, I think, played about half of the third period. He had a pretty good chance late in the third, right in front of the net. The puck kind of came loose, and he went to bury it. I thought he waited a little too long. I think he thought he had more time than he did. But either way, there was a couple other Oilers guys in the vicinity. No one could get it home. And I think that was their best chance. And even after, at the time, I think it was around 6 or 7 minutes left, I was like, that might be it. That may have been their opportunity blown. And they had their chances. They really did. No crazy ones. That was the best one, McDavid in front. And in that final minute, when they finally got Skinner out, I think most of the guys in the ice looked like they were dead. I mean, a lot of those guys were playing big minutes down the stretch of the third. They looked completely gassed. They couldn't get it done. Panthers hold on for the 2-1 win in front of the home crowd. And what a night for the Florida Panthers. I mean, congratulations if you're a Panthers fan. These are the nights to remember, and these are the nights that you're a fan for. It doesn't happen too often that your team could win a cup. And the Panthers group looks like a really special one. It really does. Those guys really look like they play for one another. They bought into their system, and they found a way to salvage a series after having a 3-0 lead and blowing it. To win that Game 7 and not let the Oilers make history is impressive. Panthers get their first cup in franchise history in their third attempt, having lost in 96 to the Avalanche and then obviously losing last year to the Knights. They come right back, and they get it done this time. They were not going to be denied. Overall, rather quiet game from McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, the Panthers could play a smothering-type game and effectively kind of shut those types of guys down from time to time. And tonight was one of those nights where I'm not going to say McDavid was invisible, but he definitely wasn't the Connor McDavid we're used to seeing. And, when your top guys are kind of struggling, it's going to be hard to win games, and especially a game of this magnitude. The Panthers brought their A game, and congratulations to them. Connor McDavid wins the Conn Smythe, becoming only the 6th player from a losing team to win it. Now, listen, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I have a friend who shall not be named who is a Connor McDavid hater. I can't really trace the origin of where this comes from, but for all intents and purposes, in my video I released this morning, it was all but a foregone conclusion that Connor McDavid was going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy tonight, regardless of who won the game. Okay? A lot of people on Twitter and talking heads, and I have to look more into it after the game just ended a little while ago, but a lot of people are saying, oh, how can you give it to a loser and all these things, and that's ridiculous, and yada, yada. The bottom line, in my opinion, is that most of the time I am of the mindset that I would like the Conn Smythe Trophy to go to a member of the winning team of the Stanley Cup. That just makes sense. With that being said, Connor McDavid had an absolutely freakish playoff, 4th most points in a single playoff of all time. And when you look at the other side for the Panthers, McDavid had 42 points. The highest point totals for the playoffs for the Panthers was Tkachuk and Barkov, both with 22. Connor McDavid had almost double the amount of points of the Panthers leaders. And because the Conn Smythe is not the finals MVP, it's the playoff MVP. And so for me, again, I always default to wanting to give the Conn Smythe to someone on the winning team. It doesn't always happen, and this is one of those scenarios where, unfortunately, McDavid's stats were just so mind-blowing and excellent that it's hard to make the case to not give it to him. How is he not the most valuable player of the entire playoffs? I know that's not going to be a popular opinion with a lot of the Panthers fans, but in the end, you got the trophy that mattered. You got the cup. Connor McDavid gets the Conn Smythe. And then for those that say Bobrovsky, I mean, listen, Bobrovsky had a good playoff, but And I think the Conn Smythe probably was his to lose after games 1 through 3. But the way he struggled in 4, 5, 6, I ultimately think that cost him the Conn Smythe, and it sent it back into the arms of Connor McDavid. Or I should say the eventual arms of Connor McDavid, because as of this recording, I don't know that he's actually touched the trophy yet. I'll get to that in a minute. But I do not think it was in any way a robbery. I don't think Bobrovsky should have got it over McDavid. And, McDavid had an outstanding tournament. 42 points, 4th all-time. I mean, how are you going to deny him? And he got it. There was really no one on the Panther side that stuck out as extraordinary. To me, that's actually even more of a testament to what a true team they are, because they aren't reliant on, 1, 2, or 3 guys. Obviously, they have their star players, but they are a cohesive team. Kind of remind me of the 1995 New Jersey Devils. Just a deep team that rolls their 4 lines, and they got it done. And so when you have a team like that, a lot of times you're not going to have, maybe in a specific playoff year like this one, you're not going to have a guy that has overwhelming stats. And so it opens the door and makes the case for someone on the losing team to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. Connor McDavid did just that. And, I felt the same way that some of the Panthers fans might feel about the Conn Smythe Trophy back in 2003. The great Martin Brodeur, in my opinion, and I've talked about this on different segments on my show over the course of the past, 6 months to a year or whatever it may be. Martin Brodeur was completely robbed of the 2003 Conn Smythe Trophy after the Devils won the Cup. They gave it to John Sebastian Giguere, who was like the feel-good story of that playoff. And not to discredit Giguere, he had an absolutely amazing tournament. But the great Marty Brodeur had an even better tournament with a sub-2 goals against. I forget what it was. It was 1 point something goals against average for the duration of the playoffs, with 7 shutouts in the playoffs. Bobrovsky had 2, by the way, just for those counting. Bobrovsky had 2 shutouts this playoff. Marty had 7, and 3 of the Brodeur shutouts in the 2003 playoffs were in the finals. 3 Stanley Cup Final shutouts, including the deciding Game 7. Biggest robbery in NHL history. You heard it here first. Martin Brodeur was completely robbed in 2003. That Conn Smythe should have been his. Instead, they gave it to Giguere. I still don't understand it, but don't get it confused. That was a true robbery. Tonight was not a robbery. Tonight was absolutely not a robbery, and 2003 was. And that's my little sour grapes soapbox rant about that, because Marty really deserved it. And now getting to McDavid not accepting the trophy. At first, when Bettman came out and he announced it, I knew it was going to be McDavid. As I pointed out in the video I dropped this morning, I basically said he's going to get it. His stats are insane. The Vegas betting line was minus 3,500 for him to win. Risk $3,500 to win 100. That is a monster favorite. And then the writing was on the wall. It was McDavid's trophy pretty much from, a couple days ago. And so everyone knew McDavid was going to get it. Maybe he was, it's not official till the voters put their votes in. I will say, I don't blame the kid, because it seemed like they brought, I don't have a stopwatch, but it seemed like the Conn Smythe Trophy came out and Bettman said it. It seemed like the game was over for quite a while. I'd be curious to know what it was in real time, like how many minutes elapsed from the end of the game in the handshake line to when the Conn Smythe came out with Bettman. But the entire Edmonton Oilers team was off the ice. From my recollection, in 2003, I was at the game when the Devils won that glorious Game 7. The Conn Smythe came out pretty quick. The entire Ducks team was on the ice, and they announced it for Giguere, and the whole arena went crazy because everyone knew Marty got robbed. Giguere skates over, picks up the trophy. He's crying. Famous photo. Bang. Giguere crying in his beard after picking up the Conn Smythe, and then the whole Ducks team leaves the ice. It seemed to have happened much quicker. Tonight, it seemed like an eternity. The Oilers were already gone. McDavid's in the locker room, so at that point, I don't know what the actual procedure is, how and when he's notified. But either way, I'm not going to call him a bad sport and say that he should have came out of the locker room after a devastating Game 7 loss, come back out of the locker room to pick up a Conn Smythe trophy on the road. It just doesn't sit well with me. And for the people to attack him, I think it's childish. I do believe if they brought it out in a timely fashion and McDavid was out there, he wasn't going to be like, no, I'm not getting the Conn Smythe, boo-hoo, and been a poor sport about it. The fact is they brought it out and announced it when he was already in the locker room. The kid just went through the most devastating loss of his entire life, period. He was probably crying in his stall. Him and his team just came just an inch short of making sports history, fighting back from down 3-0, tie the series at 3, force the Game 7. They're on the road, and they lose a really tight one that's comes down to what the goalie pulled and trying to get a last-minute goal to tie it up. I mean, that's a devastating Game 7 loss. It's as devastating as it gets. And so for people to talk shit about McDavid, that he's a poor sport because he didn't come out of the locker room, and he was literally probably maybe even had his skates off, who even knows, but he was in the locker room for an extended period of time. To expect him to come back out and get the Conn Smythe trophy, I think is ridiculous. Completely ridiculous, and I think it's unfounded, criticism. And I think, unfortunately, for a lot of the greats, and I've started to realize it with McDavid as well, and it's in every sport, LeBron James in basketball and, Tom Brady in football. Connor McDavid is a great, and a lot of times the greats have a lot of haters. They really do. People hate on the greats, and people hate on McDavid, so I'm not surprised that people are attacking him. But if you're not completely, delusional and biased, no one in their right mind should attack the kid for not coming out to get the Conn Smythe trophy. Completely ridiculous. They took too long, and shame on Bettman. I mean, they should have brought it out faster, honestly. I blame the NHL. That's another NHL fail, but not the end of the world. He didn't pick up the trophy. Life goes on. The celebration on the ice was a party. I mean, it was a straight-up party. I always love watching the players pass around the cup and hug each other. It's just pure sports joy. And even when it's not your team, I enjoy watching it. The Stanley Cup is the most prestigious trophy in all of sports. And anytime you see it presented, it's a special night. And tonight was a special night for hockey fans everywhere. I would like to also say shame on the broadcast for dumping the audio at several points. So I believe the arena started chanting curses or something when McDavid was announced as the Conn Smythe winner. They bleeped the audio. I think or just straight up muted it, rather, for an extended period of time. Kind of annoying. I want to hear what's going on. So, put a parental advisory, disclaimer, whatever it is. I want to hear what the arena is saying. I don't want you to mute it out. Like, what is that about? And to piggyback off that, I also don't want the audio dumped or bleeped or censored when the guys are passing around the cup. I want to hear the curses. I want to hear everything. I want to live and feel the emotion and joy of the moment, and you're partially robbing that from us when you're bleeping the audio. The most glaring thing about that I can remember was when Paul Maurice finally got it. I think Emily Kaplan was about to interview him when the player who had the cup brought it over to Maurice, and he looked at it, he said a bunch of things, and I think there was some curses too. It was hard to tell. But then when he finally put the cup over his head, he belted out a fuck yeah. I want to hear Paul Maurice's fuck yeah. How dare you bleep that and take that away from us? Sorry if it's on regular TV. I want to feel the emotion. I want to feel the raw emotion in the building. And, that's just the society we live in today, I suppose. Everyone trying to protect everyone. But all in all, a phenomenal Game 7. One for the ages. The Panthers found a way to get it done on their home ice and avoid becoming a pretty big historical team in the way of blowing a 3-0 series lead to give another team a championship. I mean, wow. That's pretty brutal. But let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the Conn Smythe winner. Did you think someone other than McDavid deserved it? Let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know what you think about him not coming out to get the Conn Smythe. I mean, I'm sure some Panthers fans will talk smack. But let me know what you think about that whole thing. And then another side note, now I'm just going to reel it back to Devils for my Devils fans watching. Did you see the Tkachuk family celebration in the stands on the broadcast when the Panthers won? Our man Brady Tkachuk was celebrating with his old man Keith Tkachuk, 90s NHL legend, with his sister, his mom, and Brady was in his feels. He was all excited for his older brother, rah-rah, with the pom-poms out. And I could only think in my brain that Brady, now witnessing his brother go to the finals last year and ultimately come up short, to make it back with this Panthers team this year and win the cup, has to make Brady Tkachuk want to play in the playoffs for a contender more than ever. His team, the Ottawa Senators, right before the Game 7 started, actually made a trade for Linus Ullmark, which I suppose is part of the Senators and Steve Stais, their general manager, trying to, field a competitive team to make the playoffs and hopefully keep Brady happy long enough so that he doesn't demand out. And we'll see how that goes. I have a lot of thoughts on the return for Linus Ullmark. A lot of fans have been talking about that versus Markstrom. I'll have another video on the channel later today, so look for that. The Ullmark debate in the whole trade package versus Markstrom. Did we get the right goalie? I'll be talking about that in depth. But this has to light a fire under Brady Tkachuk's ass like no other. Watching his brother go to the finals in consecutive years and finally winning the cup, it can't feel good. It cannot feel good at all. And I'm curious to know, does Brady Tkachuk attend the cup parties? I mean, is he going to go to whatever the soiree his brother's going to have when it's his day with the cup? Is he going to avoid that? How does this work? How does this work? I am very curious. Inquiring minds want to know. But I just hope Brady never wants to feel like this again. Hasn't played in the playoffs in his career. The Tkachuk boys are made for the playoffs, and he's had to be a bystander as a fan in the stands with his family watching Matthew play because his team is not competitive. And so, obviously, you all know, bring Brady to NJ. I've been talking about it for months. I don't think it's going to happen this summer. I really do believe that Staios is going to just clutch on and be defiant and really hope that his team can turn it around and they can keep the face of their franchise and their captain, Brady Tkachuk, happy in Ottawa. However, I do think they're on borrowed time, and I think that ultimately, if they miss the playoffs this year under Travis Green with their new addition of Linus Ullmark and net, I do think that after this year, he's going to be like, enough is enough. I need to get out of here. I'm wasting my career. I'm wasting my career here for what? What am I being loyal to this organization for? You know, they haven't been able to build a winning team around me, and his career's going by, going to be approaching his prime, and he's just watching the playoffs on television and watching his brother get all the spoils. And here's a picture of Matthew and Brady now on the ice when Brady made his way down to the ice. Here they are kind of all lovey-dovey on the ice. And shout out to Steve the Maniac, who actually is a skilled lip reader. And he told me he read the lips and he saw what Matthew's telling him in this exchange is he's telling Brady, ask out like I did. Ask out like I did, referring to Matthew Tkachuk asking out of Calgary before coming into this beautiful scenario in Florida where he's now gone to the finals in back-to-back years and finally won the cup this year in this amazing Game 7. I'm super jacked up, guys. I have such adrenaline after games like this. But Brady Tkachuk, paging Brady, bring Brady to NJ. Watching all this can't be good for his psyche. This young man has had to watch his brother's continued success while his team flounders year after year, and he would look absolutely phenomenal in the Devils' red, white, and black. He would look phenomenal in a Devils jersey. Brady Tkachuk, it needs to happen. Shout out to Big Walt, Keith Tkachuk, 90s NHL legend, one of my favorite players when I was a kid. Absolute throwback of a man, and his family name, the Tkachuk family name, will finally be engraved on Lord Stanley's Cup. So shout out to Big Walt. He's actually a really nice guy. I ran into him, and I had brief conversations with him 2 different times. Once while he was at the Rock to watch Matthew play the Devils when he was on the Flames, and once when he was in town to watch Brady play the Devils on the Senators, obviously. And I had brief conversations with him. Super nice guy, and he's just a legend. And good for him, man. I think he might have been more excited than Matthew. The Tkachuk family name will be on the cup. But let me know what you guys think about the bring Brady to NJ. Do you think there's any chance for this summer? Do you think we're going to have to wait till next summer? Throw anything else out there in the comments about the game. I mean, it was a phenomenal one. I really wanted the Oilers to do it for Adam Henrique. And unfortunately, they came up just short tonight. And sometimes games and series like this are needed for teams to eventually get to the top of the mountain. And you saw it with the Panthers. I mean, they made it last year. They lost, and they came right back, and they got it done. Who knows? You know, the Oilers have a lot of good players on the roster, and I expect them to be fairly competitive for a while. And so who knows, you know, who they're going to lose and what cast will be returning next year to Edmonton. But I suspect they're going to be a pretty damn good team, and I think you're going to see a more fired-up Connor McDavid than ever because this is going to haunt him all summer. You could tell he's a true competitor. When they were interviewing him after the game, it looked like he was going to cry, and I feel bad for the kid, you know. He gave it his all. He had an absolutely monster playoff, and his team came up just short. 1 goal in a Game 7 with chances down the stretch of the game. I mean, it doesn't get any closer than that. Outside of losing in overtime, I guess. But outside of that, losing by 1 goal in regulation has to be an absolute gut punch. And it's going to haunt him for a while until he finally gets redemption and wins a cup. And there's no guarantee to get back. That's the thing. As years go on, these guys see how hard it really is to get to that final and how hard it is to win the cup. And you've heard, Cup winners over the decades talk about this. To get back there and to get over the hump and to win. It's not easy. The Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win in all sports. And it takes a true warrior team to get those 16 wins in a playoff run. But throw anything out there in the comments. Let me know about the game. I'll probably be back with some more stuff later today. A lot of Devil stuff going on. I'll probably maybe do a little more Cup stuff after I digest everything and check out all the interviews and blah, blah, blah. But my heart goes out to the city of Edmonton, Connor McDavid. Poor Kate the Flasher. Kate the Flasher turned Playboy star. Damn, Kate. It just wasn't your team's year. Sorry, Kate. Sorry to Kate. But that's it, guys. Wrapping up here. Throw it all out there in the comments. Talk to you all soon. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.